Welcome, data enthusiasts. I'm Joseph from Zuma, and this is our podcast, Data for Good. Here at Zuma, we're a dedicated recruitment company for senior data insights and analytics professionals, connecting you with Berlin's most influential and innovative companies. Today, we're joined by Alexander Krannich, who is based in Berlin. He is head of analytics and data science at TCC GmbH. TCC operates in the field of telemedicine, offering digital intensive care medical support remotely and real-time 24/7. TCC also combines the use of AI and expert clinical experience to offer this proactive technology infrastructure and advice. How did I do, Alexander?
Great.
Good. Yeah,
Great.
it sounds like some extremely sophisticated data technology, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. And as I do, could you give us a high-level summary of what you do in your work with TCC as head of data science and analytics?
Yeah. The title is called Data Science and Analytics because I also care about general business data. That means we have KPIs who are collected from our different services. This is mainly the analytics part, and everything what is around patient data. That's more the data science part. Yeah, and I deal with mainly patient data. That means we collect patient data via our service infrastructure. That means we have an infrastructure who is built and used to communicate with clinics, with ICUs, with intensive care units. And we also collect data from every single patient who is involved in our service. And the main thing is, of course, our consulting service. That means we consult physicians via our own physician telemedicine center. And these physicians are also able to see patient data in real time. That means it's like a virtual clinic situation who the remote physician can see everything what a local physician in the hospital can see. All what is collected, vital signs, medication, lab results, medical history, demographics, everything around the patient. But the advantage of this whole service system is that you can also collect data to use them for data science. That means for research and development. And with this data, we develop algorithms to predict events at the moment, in the future, and also to find ways to prevent events. That means prevention for something like adverse events or other things.
Very interesting. That's the proactive aspect of the data that you're working with, and such as the work of machine learning algorithms to be able to make those predictions and therefore help people and the healthcare industry. That's very interesting. If we might step back for a moment, how did you first get into this niche industry area of data science, specifically for the healthcare industry? What was your first connection?
Yeah, at the end, it's not really a niche, or it was maybe a niche 10 years before, but at the moment, this niche develops to a huge area in the medical research field. In the past, all research, or the main research, was classical prospective planned trials. That means you do a randomized clinical trial, you give a placebo and a new drug to a patient, or a state-of-the-art drug in comparison to a new drug, and then you run your study and you collect the results. And then there are also several other types, more epidemiologic study types, case-controlled studies, cohort studies, something like this. but most of these trials are prospective. That means a research group is planning the trial and running the trial, and afterwards resulting the output. But within the last 10 years, also the real world data or real world evidence developed very strong in the medical field. And you can see this within the HTA, the health technology assessment part in the medical research field. That's the part where you gather data after, for example, drug approval, and you judge, you validate these drugs in a real life situation. And if you look in Europe and mainly in Germany, there's a huge health technology assessment structure within all the pharma companies. We have dedicated authorities dealing with this data and these results. And it's mainly part of the actual price negotiation after drug approval in the EMA or finally in the German market. That means this becomes very important in several parts of our healthcare system. And the question is why? Yeah, I think there are two main reasons. The first reason is that a drug or a product is not always performing in real life as it was performing in a fixed lab setting. Lab setting is maybe a too strong word, but at the end, a randomized clinical trial with prospective planned, it's something like a lab setting. And then in the real world, sometimes the drug is not really performing. And therefore, it was absolutely necessary to find a process to also observe medical products and drugs in the real life situation. And the second big point why why this topic is rising is because the data is available. Yeah, in the past it was very time consuming to collect data from every single patient. That means you have to write almost all data down on a paper. If you look 10 years in the past, almost everything in the clinical trial was written by hand on a paper. Written by hand and signed at the end to have a valid approval that the person who collected everything is aware about the importance of the data and has to sign with his own name. But in the last 10 years, we got a lot of software products who are highly professional with also something like a validation and signature process. Therefore, you can, therefore it was possible to switch from this vetting procedure to a totally digital procedure with all the quality needs you have in a clinical trial. And the other thing is that devices developed very fast. In the past, you had to measure several vital signs per hand, and now you have just a device attached to the body slightly implanted under the skin. And these devices are able to send everything automatically into a database. Yeah, that's the reason why this niche is not longer a niche. It becomes almost bigger than the actual prospective research area in the past.
And thus interesting for some of your appetites in terms of the masses of data the masses of different data points, but also the masses of data that you can collect from whole societies, both in intensive care and out of intensive care. Very, very interesting still. And within that, I understand that today's topic you've chosen directly relates to your work, and that's around high density data for your industry, for healthcare. Put this in context for us. What is high density data and why is it so important for the evolution of the healthcare sector.
Yeah, and maybe one sentence to the past. If you speak to statisticians who are older than 40 or 50, then almost all started with normal randomized trials, with cohort studies, with prospective research studies. That means there was nothing else in the past. But now, if you are a young statistician, you have to choose. Yeah, what's the best field you like to work in? You can choose to become a normal study statistician, phase 1 to phase 4, or you can also directly step into the real world evidence, real world data part. Yeah. But at the end, why it's my decision, I think as a statistician, you have to learn the normal study business with also randomized trials and everything around. But at the end, if you have experience with this, then the more interesting part is the real world evidence part, because then you can compare, is the drug really performing? Yeah, what's the actual end result? At the end, it's always nice to have a successful study and to get the EMA or FDA approval. But if you like to see if the patient really benefits from a drug or from a device, then you have to look in the real world data, and that's at the end more interesting from a patient perspective, and therefore this field is really interesting for me, and therefore I choose this field, and and it's also a huge challenge to deal with this amount of data, and also, to be honest, to deal with this amount of bias, because outside the lab setting, nothing is really clear or obvious. You have to dig really deep in the data to find if it's a real result, or if it's just a bias due to the lack of complete data or the lack of information outside a normal study protocol.
Interesting. Bias in data. If we could take one area of that, let's say, as you mentioned earlier, heart rate monitors outside of intensive care. You mentioned about devices or machines attached or just below the layer of skin, the upper layer of skin. How might that data taken from heart rates be biased?
Yeah, and maybe one sentence regarding these heart rate data. That's also a thing. In the past, it was really difficult to collect a lot of data. Yeah, that means you did data collection mainly via visits. Yeah, that means a patient has a visit. He goes to the clinic once a week, once a day, or once a month, and then you collect it, for example, a heart rate. And now you have small devices like connectors in the intensive care unit, or wearables outside in the ICU or outside the clinic, and you get a lot of data, and that's what you mentioned before in your question regarding high density data or high frequency data. Means you really have data every 15 minutes, every minute, or sometimes every second. But it's sometimes also difficult if something went wrong with the device. For example, the connection is not really complete, correct, installed at the patient. Maybe something slips, a sensor slips or something like this. Sometimes a sensor is failing, or sometimes you don't you have no real information about the patient. For example, if you have a normal adult, the heart rate is as you know, about 60 to 80. But if you have a small child, for example, an infant, the normal heart rate is much higher. And if you have no information about the patient, if you don't know is it an infant or adult, then the result is maybe very strange. And in real life situation, you sometimes have no information about this, in opposite to a clinical trial.
Is that where data bias could lie? The fact that you don't have all the information to make assertions about. Okay, and again, taking heart rate measurements, it used to be in the clinic or once a day or once a week, but now if it's all the time, would you be taking an average from a day's work or a day in the life of that person, be it them eating dinner, getting stressed out at work, going for a run, all these different factors, rather than just walking into the clinic and taking the heart rate then when they're probably either calmer or more alert, let's say.
Generally, it's necessary to say that at the moment it's not so easy to get all this information about the patient. It's evolving fastly, but the best place at the moment to collect high density, high frequency data and several data types from a patient is on the ICU in the intensive care unit. It's clear the patient is in the bed. He's normally not he's not able to walk, to go to leave the room or the bed. That means he's constantly in the bed. He's constantly measured, monitored, and therefore you can easily collect all this data. But hopefully in the future we can also collect this type of data within a real world situation with a monitor, with a wearable, and can do interesting analysis. And in the past, to your question, in the past, maybe 30, 40 years ago, a lot of statisticians developed special statistical tests to deal with big data. It was not called big data, but if you had several thousand patients, it was not so easy to calculate this by hand, or sometimes impossible or too time consuming. But it was also difficult to calculate this on a computer because the computers were not so fast, not so advanced as today, and therefore they developed special methods to deal with this. But today we have everything we need. It means we have really high computing power in the cloud. We have special algorithms, special models like machine learning, artificial neural networks that can handle these huge data sets. And therefore, and now we have really everything in place to handle such data sets like the ICU data sets. But we are still learning, and we still have to improve, because maybe in the next 5 years we get also high frequency data from patients outside the hospital, or maybe from normal citizens, health data from normal citizens. And this will be much more than at the moment at the ICU. That means the proportion of citizens in the intensive care unit in comparison to the whole population of a country is very tiny.
Could you give us an overview as to what your team of data scientists and ML engineers are currently focused on in terms of algorithmic development or any other area, just to put that in context for other data professionals?
We are at TCC are specialized in prediction, monitoring, and also prevention of events. Yeah, it means we build prediction models. For example, we try to estimate the development of a patient. Is he improving or is he decreasing regarding his physical state, vital signs? Is it likely that he will become more healthy or more sick within the next days or next hours? Is there something like a dramatic event? Maybe will he stop breathing? Will he be able to leave the ICU to a normal station?
Okay. Prediction, monitoring, prevention of events. That's what the team's working on. If, for example, we take prevention of events, could you drill down a bit deeper as to what kind of algorithms you're developing that contribute to preventing these events and therefore ultimately saving people or helping people?
The first step is always the prediction. And the prediction is at the end, it's technically not so easy, but in general, if you look on the whole path to do a prediction or to develop the prediction, it's in general easy, because you look at the patients, you track everything what the patient does, or what values, data you get, and then at the end event will happen. And if the event occurs, then you can build a model. That means you can train the machine learning algorithm to figure out what's the pattern of this actual event. That means you have always the whole information about the patient development and the final event. That's the easy thing. But if you finish this model, and if the model is running in real time in the real world, then you have to start an intervention if the algorithm is telling you that something will be happen. That means if the algorithm predicts a high mortality or problems with ventilation or problems with vital signs, or maybe something like kidney problems or heart problems or whatever, then you have to do an intervention before the actual event occurs, to prevent this event. And on the long term, it's very easy. If you are old, if you are a smoker, if you have diabetes, if you are a high risk person, then
some strong indications there.
Yeah, strong indications that you may get a stroke or a heart attack within the next 5 years. But this time window is very huge. Therefore, you can do something. You can almost guarantee stop smoking, get a diabetes therapy, whatever, do sports, eat healthy. If the patient is really compliant to this advice, then the probability of a stroke or heart attack will decrease within the next 5 years. But at the ICU, it's more tricky because the time is very short. For example, if you like to predict things like sepsis, sepsis is a very difficult thing. Very high mortality if a patient gets sepsis on the ICU. If you like to predict sepsis, then the time window is very small, maybe 10 or 12 or 20 hours. That means after the sepsis development and the prediction, there's a small time window, and then you have to intervene to do something. But to be honest, at the moment, it's not so easy in Germany. That means all these prediction and prevention algorithms who are mainly connected to machine learning and artificial intelligence are at the moment not really it's not so easy to get approval for this, because we are in the beginning of this whole area, and the authorities have to develop very fast to also
and
prove.
Historically, they move quite slowly. How quickly do you think we can turn this around, or when do you think we might get these kind of solutions into play en masse universally, or at least across Germany?
Yeah, if you look at the prediction, we already have such algorithms. But if you look at the prevention after prediction, I think it takes maybe 1 and 2 or 2 years more to get a good approval process in Germany and in the ILMA. But at the end, it's not really. I don't like the authority bashing. I think they are really fast in several areas. They really try to find a good way for approval, and also for the companies who are starting such algorithm development. Everything is new. There are really few companies who are dealing with this more than 5 years. Therefore, I think this process is new to all of us, not only the authorities, also the research community in the healthcare field. Because healthcare is really a special field. If you look at online marketing or general sales processes with
e-commerce, for example.
They are really high developed, and they can easily predict if you will buy this or that product in a comparison of the display ad. But in the healthcare area, especially in Germany and in Europe, we are all in the beginning.
With the added criticality of the predictions, or the solutions that you're providing. Okay. Noted. No authority bashing, and respect the gains and progress that the industry has made. And with that, you talked at the beginning about 10 years ago how clinicians and professionals in the healthcare domain would record information by a pen and paper, and perhaps record that into some kind of hardware piece that remains within a hospital system. If we look 10 years from now, what do you think the advancements will be as a result of either your work or the industry's work with AI and machine learning?
Yeah, I think in 10 years, I guess everything is more floating. That means you have the approval process of a drug or product or whatever, or also of a general therapy. Therapy is not always a drug or a product. It could be also something like a behavior therapy, something like this. And I think after the approval, the data collection goes without break on. That means you can track everything via wearables on patients and citizens. You can track all the vital signs via very small devices. I think you may have also more patient-centric platforms, online platforms, so that there are maybe big platforms or apps who are very common to document a personal status, for example, quality of life or pain or whatever. With this, it's then more easy to judge, to validate the real world situation after the first day of approval. That means in the best case, we can put out we can remove drugs from the market maybe 2 or 3 months after market approval if it's obvious that they are not really working in the real world setting. Yeah, and otherwise we can maybe or maybe otherwise we have the situation that the actual price negotiation between the payer and the producer will be developing continuously over the time by looking on real world evidence. That means maybe one month in the market, your product price is very low, but maybe 4 months on the market, you get much more reimbursement for your product because the real world situation shows that your product is great and it's working absolutely good, and therefore the benefit for the patient is very high, and therefore your reimbursement is also higher. Yeah, that means not really price only on one-time negotiations, price and payment really related to the actual benefit of the patient.
Okay.
And also to make this clear, and also at the end, the actual benefit for the patient. Yeah, that's the main thing at the end, beside price. Yeah.
Interesting. How do you think this field of data science and AI working now could influence or impact other industry areas? It would be, it could be pretty obvious with sports and the impact that it could have in the sports field. How about other areas like maybe food tech, nutrition?
Shopping? I don't know if really food nutrition is something important in the future, but what is definitely important in the future is the healthcare politics. Yeah, that means if you're in charge in the government in a high developed country, and you have a really good IT infrastructure within your healthcare system, and you are able to collect continuously data from patients and healthy citizens, then you can run, or you can better organize prevention programs. Yeah, that means at the moment we have the situation that the diseases just occur. Yeah, that means there's a patient with a heart attack, there's a patient with kidney failure, there's a patient with diabetes, and these patients are tracked from the beginning of their actual diagnosis. Yeah, but not before. But maybe in 5 or 10 years, we have the possibility to track citizens, or if the patient or citizens is consenting to this tracking. But if it's possible, then maybe you can start an intervention, for example, with a diabetes program before. Yeah, you can identify maybe 10 or 20,000 citizens as high-risk diabetes patients in the future, and then you can ask them, we calculated a high risk for you personally. Do you like to talk with us to develop a solution to reduce this risk? And maybe there are some patients who are, or maybe not patients, they are still healthy at this moment, but maybe some citizens are not, they are not agree. But I think the bigger part will agree and will try to reduce this risk. Yeah, that means it's an opportunity to run big prevention programs within the population, for our politicians.
Yeah, I mean, you made the point there that not everybody is a patient. Maybe they will be in the future, but it
Yep.
strikes me that the work you're doing in terms of proactivity and prevention could mean that you're able to identify these warning signs potentially years in advance. So seemingly very healthy people with, from the outside, no signs of diabetes, for example, they could well be the patients or the subjects, and perhaps other industry areas could be using the same data science to sell and market products to them, or solutions or services relating to their lifestyle.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
seems boundless.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not really science fiction. It's totally obvious. If you look at cholesterol, it's fatty acid in the blood, cholesterol.
Okay.
If you have a really high value, then it's not so important if you are 20 or 30 or 40, but it becomes more important after 40. That means then your risk for stroke and heart attack rises dramatically. And you can there are easy therapies, there are easy drugs, cheap drugs, who has almost no side effects. And if you take this after 40, then your risk of stroke and heart attack decreases dramatically. Yeah. And it's obvious, everybody knows this, but not every citizen is checking the blood every year. Yeah. But if you have something like a device, a patch, whatever, I don't know, also maybe via visual scan. Yeah, there are a lot of machine learning, artificial intelligence tools who are able to scan the skin pattern, to scan several skin colors and skin forms, and they are able to predict also vital signs, or maybe also cholesterol for a patient just by scanning the face. Yeah. And if you are able to develop such technologies so that they are really really valid, then it's very easy for every citizen to scan the face once a year or once a month within I don't know, 5 or 10 seconds, and then you can get individual prediction. But it's always good if this is organized politically from a government, because otherwise only really health aware people, or maybe more wealthy people, are benefiting from this technology.
Yeah, the democratization of these solutions. Yeah, there are myriad different directions we could take that in. Alexander, our conversation must run to an end, unfortunately. I'm wondering, where can data enthusiasts find out more about the type of data science and artificial intelligence you guys are working on?
Yeah, in general, if you new in the field as a data scientist, or you like to start in this field, it's always good to learn about the whole statistics thing. Yeah, statistics, math are the main thing. You have to deal with this. You have to learn this to understand everything around this. And afterwards, you all can also deal with data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever. But if you just interested in popular literature, then still science, then I really recommend everything what is published around the Apple Watch. Yeah, Apple Watch is
interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, Apple Watch is able to track several things, heart rate, whatever, and also SpO2 oxygen saturations, and the new version is also able to do a ECG. Yeah.
Yes.
And there are some publications. I think a big publication. I'm not really sure. I can send you the link for the show notes here. I think there's a big population with a big famous hospital in the United States. I'm not sure if it's really Johns Hopkins or other one, but yeah, it's a really good publication, and it shows what is possible by using variables. Yeah, it really shows the power of variables and the science behind this, and what you can do actually to improve health or to discover undiagnosed diseases.
So for the data professionals, stats and maths never to be underestimated. Don't shift your focus away from this. And surprisingly, publications around the Apple Watch, I was led to believe that the Apple Watch accuracy is not so on point, but perhaps the research is quite revealing. Interesting. Thank you for sharing this. Very insightful generally, and a new area of data for me as well. So thank you, Alexander. It's all we've got time for today. So for our listeners and viewers, please feel free to like, comment, ask questions on the LinkedIn or the YouTube post. This really is breakthrough data science that Alexander has shared today. So thanks, and see you all next time.
Thanks, Joseph. Bye-bye.